Test book says most bears can smell. Scientists are proving them wrong. Science by Elizabeth Penici, July 7, 2021. Almost 200 years ago, the renowned U.S. naturalist renowned U.S. naturalist John James Audubon hid a decaying pig carcass under a pile of brush to test vultures' sense of smell. When the bears overlooked the pig, while one flocked to a nearly odorless stuffed their skin, he took he took it as proof as they really rely on vision, not smell, to find their food. The experiments cemented a commonly held idea, despite later evidence that vultures and few specialized avian hunters use odors. After all, the dogma that most bears aren't attuned to smell endured. Now that dogma is being eroded by findings on bears' behaviors and molecular hardware, two of which were published just last month. One showed storks home in one the smell of freshly mowed grass. Another documented scores of functional of olfactory receptors in multiple bird species. Researchers are realizing, says evolutionary biologist Scott Edwards of Harvard University, that olfaction has a lot of impacts on different aspects of bird biology. 40 years ago, when ethologist Floriano Papi pro- proposed that homing pigeons find their way back to a roost by sniffing out its chemical signature, his colleagues scoffed at the idea. They pointed out that bears have several other keen senses to guide them, including sight and, in the case of pigeons and some other species, a magnetic sense. By then, biological textbooks already stated unequivocally that bears have little to no sense of smell, and many people still believe it. Even scientists, says Daniel Whitaker, a chemical ecologist at Michigan State University. Still, contrary evidence was already accumulating. In the 2000 in the 1970s, or ornithologist Kenneth Steiger found vultures were attracted to boxes with a carcass hidden inside and fence that vented the odors, and as long as this bite wasn't too decomposed, as was likely the case in Audubon's experiment. Researchers also found that albatrosses, shearwaters, and some other seabirds find their fish prey by detecting a chemical released by the plankton the fish eats. But these birds, forced to navigate many kilometers across a featureless sea, seemed exceptional. In 2008, you were part of the dark side if you talked about bears using olfaction, recalls Martin Wikelski, an ecologist at the Max Planck Institute of Ornithology. That year, though, a graduate student at his institute, molecular ecologist Silke Steiger, analyzed 9 bears' genome from across the avian family tree and uncovered many genes for olfactory receptors, proteins in the nasal passages that bear to others and relay a signal to the brain. In species that don't rely much on smell, humans are an example. These genes often mutate and become non-functional, but the researchers confirmed that many of the bear's olfactory genes were intact. That's more. That's more. They found that the number of these genes correlated with the size of a bear species' olfactory bulb, the brain smell center, furthered evidence that the receptors were functional. The genomes in that study were incomplete, however. Last month, Christopher Balakrishnan, an evolutionary biologist at East Carolina University, and graduate student Robert Driver examined some of the best available bird genomes and for some species found many more olfactory genes. Their analysis of genomes from hummingbird, emu, chicken, zebra finch, and tropical fruit eater called manakin revealed scores of new olfactory receptors. They reported on 28 June in the journal Integrative and Comparative Biology that the emu has so many of these genes excited Whitaker because this bird sits near at the base of the bird family tree. This result suggests that the ancestors to all birds must have had a very diverse set of olfactory receptor genes as well. She says, smell must have been important to birds from the beginning, and comparison of their olfactory receptor genes today confirm it remains so. Balakrishnan and Driver found that one diverse set of receptors unique to birds has split into multiple types of species to different birds lineages. That suggests these genes evolved rapidly in the birds diversified. Natural selections may have honed the genes to perform crucial tasks. Wikelski and colleagues saw bird smells in action after they were inspired by a question from a curious primary school student during an outreach program at a school in Radolfsfeld, Germany. The student asked the scientists how the local population of European white storks found their way to fleshy-cut meadows where the insects and rodent prey were most exposed. To find out, Wikelski piloted this plane in circle to observe a flock of 70 storks on sunny springs and summer days. Even when the storks couldn't see or hear the mowing, he and his colleagues noted they honed in on mowed fields upwind of them, as if drawn to smell of the cut grass. To confirm the suspicion, the team sprayed cut grass smell, a mix of three volatile chemicals, onto fields that had been mowed recently. The storks came flocking. The team responded on 18 June in scientific reports. The work shows very clearly that these birds rely exclusively on their sense of smell to make foraging decisions, Whitaker says. Other bird species might also respond to calls from injured plants. Recent evidence shows two European birds, the gray-tits and the blue-tit, locate insects that are attacking pine trees by detecting the volatile chemicals the stressed trees release. Ecologist Elina Matula of Biology Center of Czech Academy of Science and colleagues reported in September 2020 issue of Ecology and Evolution. All these results show beer olfactory should not be ignored, Matila says. Driver adds that they might also point to a new form of natural pest control in which farmers or foresters could treat threatened flora with chemicals and that entice bears to come and globe up invasive insects. Other studies suggest olfaction might guide social interactions between birds. Whitaker teams has focused on preen oil, which birds secret from a gland at base to the tail of rub onto their feathers. The oil chemical composition reveals the bear species, sex, aggressiveness, and reproductive state. Female produce much more of these other chemicals. Whittaker and her colleagues reported in January in the Journal of Chemical Ecology, suggesting they depend more on others to communicate, lacking the flashy features and songs that male rely on. Use of these cues is likely widespread, says Steiger, now at the German chemical company BASF, but simply not yet investigated well enough. That's 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 changing fast. As studies of beer olfaction expand into a new species. Published papers on the topic have doubled every decade since 1992, reaching 80 this past year. The field is belatedly putting Autumn's misconceptions to rest and acknowledging that bears, champions on fly, vision, and song, have another power as well.